Hello, everyone. This is Jay Ware from Unity and Diversity, UID, and welcome to our new series that we're going to be putting online called UID Conversations. We know there's one example I wanted to bring up. It was recently in the news. You guys can Google it. The fellow's name is Sean Carter. He was a Harvard professor, and he was really a lot of buzz on Facebook right now because he had made a post where UPS or somebody had delivered a package to his house, and it was the wrong address. It was actually, 2 blocks over or something like this. And so what Sean did, he called UPS up to say, you come get this package and re-deliver this, as opposed to walking that over to the neighbor's house or having his son walk that package over to the neighbor's house. And he explained his reasons for this online. And he says, look, I'm just not going to risk having my teenage son carry this thing in this all-white neighborhood, and someone may pull out a gun or call the police or something, And he cited as an example something that happened just a few months ago where there was a kid who missed a bus, and he decided to walk to school because he had missed his bus and stopped to ask directions, and somebody came to the door and shot at him,
Mm-hmm. He went to a home where it had the neighborhood watch.
Oh.
Thinking
it was safe?
Thinking it was safe, and knocked on the door, and they was like, get away from the door, go away, what do you want? And I guess the male of the father of the household told him to go away, and he did move away, but in the meantime, he shot out at him.
Yeah, the story I had heard was that there was a lady at the house came to the door and started hollering, and
Exactly.
the guy come running down with a loaded weapon and brandishing this weapon. The kid's running away, and this guy's shooting, So this Harvard professor just said, you know what, my son's on the honor roll and so on and so forth, but I'm not going to have him, and I understand that, because I'm political. I've done stuff for campaigns, but I won't go door to door for some candidate. I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm not going to do that. That's not safe.
Wow.
I'm not going to do that.
And I think some of us, we don't even think about that. We don't even think like that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I don't even think that there are people there are my neighbors here today
Right.
who would be afraid to knock on doors in my neighborhood. I mean, or any neighborhood in Rockford. I mean, that's
Right.
not on my radar.
And see, now that's where the fine line comes in, because it'd be interesting to see how you all feel about this. But I think there is that fine line, because I want my son to know, look, dude, you got to be careful. If you're in some situation to go walking up on somebody's door, because they're not going to just say, oh, what's going on? They're not necessarily going to say that. I need him to be savvy enough so he doesn't get shot on somebody's doorstep because he's got a flat tire. I need him to be savvy enough.
Right.
But some folks looked at that as saying, oh, you're just perpetuating the problem and so on and so forth. I don't think he's perpetuating the problem. I think that situation was valid. If you're new in that neighborhood, you don't necessarily want to be doing that stuff. That's what I think.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And why? You read in the paper and articles about people placing bombs on people in a package on someone's doorstep.
Right.
It's so many different things that could occur just from you walking up to someone's door
With a box.
with a box.
Right. Or somebody calls the police or something, and now you're holding a package, and it ain't your package, and then they're going to accuse you of stealing the package, and you're trying to tell them, no, I'm bringing it back. I mean, these are thought processes that our kids have to be aware of so that it keeps them safe, but not paranoid. But I don't know where the line is between being safe and being paranoid. I think black people have these little imaginary antenna.
They do.
And so the antenna starts going off because you think, oh, something racist is going, but it's not 100% good antenna. Sometimes it goes off false positives and false negatives.
It happens.
It happens, right? But I think we all have to have that antenna. It's not a good thing, but it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's a very real thing.
My oldest two, they live in Douglasville, Atlanta, Georgia, in Douglasville. Well, anyways, my son, he has those antennas, and they live in a gated community. They live with their father.
Oh, okay.
And he said, "Hold on, Mom. Where did that guy go? He parked at the gate. Where did he go?" You know, so he was all paranoid. I'm like, calm down. So that's true. It exists.
Huh.
Yeah, because you just, you know, and something that ever since 45 came along, you know, you have conversations. There's been a lot more. Me personally, I've talked to people of different backgrounds and so on and so forth. And there was this Muslim lady that was talking about how she's walking around, she's got her hijab, and she notices the faces of people, and some people are accepting, and other people are just all this hostility, you know.
You can feel it. You can see it.
Yes, that's coming right from your eyes. And I says, and she mentioned that, well, she took her hijab off, then she wouldn't be dealing with that. And I says, oh my God, that's every day of my life. You walk through somewhere and suddenly you look up and you catch a person glancing at you, and it's like, holy moly, you know. I mean, matter of fact, I'm dealing with this right now in a situation, and I haven't gone off on this guy yet, but if I keep getting this vibe, I'm going to, because I go into this place, everybody's in there. This is the only guy that gives me this side eye all the time, and I've kind of ignored it for 3 times, but I'm not going to ignore it the 4th time. And just tell him, look, dude, I'm coming to this place from this time to this time. You know, maybe you need to not come here at this time, because I'm not putting up with your side eye no more. Maybe you don't know you're giving me a side eye, but you better figure it out, you know. But I don't know. Are you seeing some of that too?
You know, one of the things that you know, that when I go out, you know, at home we speak Spanish and English, both. We're all bilingual. My daughters are bilingual; they're fluent in both. But it's one of the things that when I was growing up, you know, I didn't really see it a lot. Then moving into the Midwest was completely different, because I was born and raised in California. So it's
A lot of people
different.
spoke Spanish, probably.
Oh, probably 90% of the time it's all Spanish. But I've had relatives that have dealt with it, whereas you go somewhere, it's kind of like, you know, don't speak Spanish, or why don't you speak Spanish? So we're in America, you only speak English, can't do that, you know. And that's one of the things that it has, to this day, it hasn't happened to me, but it has happened to relatives. And
Somebody will come right out and say, don't speak Spanish?
it's America, speak English.
American.
Speak American. It's not even
There is no
language,
official
but-
language in our country.
in our country. But
So I
There's
think
no
the return is, it's America, shut your mouth.
you know, and but
You're supposed to hear accents here.
you do have people that go through it, you know, and not just here, but around our nation that have to deal with stuff like that at the store, you know, anywhere. You know, I mean, there's been videos that have been posted online of people going off just because, you know, you look Latino and you spoke Spanish, and this is America, and you know, you got to speak American, and like, okay, but it hasn't happened to me. But that's one of the fears, is going somewhere. But I probably speak Spanish anywhere I go. Me and my wife, and I speak it. You know,
Good. You're modeling.
I'm modeling it.
Right.
I
You're
speak it to my
modeling. You have to
daughters. I
model.
tell my daughters, speak it.
Right.
This is your first language.
Yes.
You know, you speak it. You know, if you get. But I have noticed the side eye from individuals at the
Yeah.
store.
All of a sudden you look up and it's
all
like,
of a sudden,
whoa.
you know, they give you a stare. They you know, it's you know, people just need to know that when I'm talking Spanish, I'm not talking about you. This is my first language.
Right.
You know, it's my first
Right?
language.
Is that what you think they fear?
But they think that you're speaking bad about them, and it's not. It's just a conversation. But I truly, like you know, gave the example of how the Muslim community and how, you know, how the lady feels about her hijab. You know, automatically they speak their language, so then automatically you get those. Your antennas start going. I'm the wrong way, not the right way. You know.
Yeah, right.
And it's
right.
that's the thing for me. It's on when I go out, but I probably speak it, and I with my daughters and my wife and at home and parents, and we go out, and you know, if you don't like it, I'm oh well, that's just me. You know.
Good
but
for you.
but you do feel it.
But
you get
you know,
that side.
that's been true in America ever since forever. I mean, there were places in South Rockford where there was a whole bunch of Italian spoken for a long time
Yeah.
because there's folks from the old country. There are big chunks of places in Chicago where Polish is spoken all over the place. I mean, that's why do you think there's so many Lutheran churches in Rockford? Because they built these things when the Germans could go to their thing and speak German, and
Right.
the Swedes could go over to speak Swedish.
The Norwegians.
Because they didn't know English enough to be able to have services together.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just that's always been America. It's
Yeah.
always been America. It has never been different than that.
That's true.
Well, and I have ancestors that are Cherokee and who speaks Cherokee.
Probably just the Cherokees. Is that what they speak, or is that
Well,
Algonquin? Or something?
yeah.
I don't know.
That's horrible. I don't
Right.
even know.
Right. Okay, Pocahontas.
Oh,
But see, and that's the thing, right? We were talking.
And I have the same
Right,
thing.
we were
and
talking
I
about
don't know.
yeah, we were
Yeah.
talking about bullying, but 45 does it on the daily.
I know. It's just a drop of
So then, how do you?
outrageous?
I don't know. He does it on the daily, and then, you try and teach it at home, where bullying, and you please
Right.
make sure that you don't bully, but don't get bullied.
Don't get
Right.
bullied.
Get that open communication. But when you have that someone in power like that who bullies on a daily, then I gotta take it back to my daughters and say, at home I'm like, don't bully. If you get bullied, we gotta have to, we talk to me. But then, 45 said this and does this,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and he's bullying, but you
And
how do
lying.
you teach it at home? Like,
And
it's like,
lying, yeah.
don't
Lying.
ignore what this is
It's
going
just-
on.
it's
It's
bad.
hard.
It's just
it's hard.
sometimes you have to point out examples of bad people, and we're used to doing that as parents all the time. We just have to do that. It's the president of the United States, though, and that's the big. I can't remember that's the disconnect. It really is. But it is bad behavior, and he's modeling it, and you just have to say it's not good behavior.
a good behavior, and you just gotta have,
Right.
because then at home you're like, well,
Mhm.
they give you examples, and you're like, oh, let me take it back and let me explain it to you. Don't do that.
But you
Yeah.
know what?
We have to teach
Black
them
folks
how-
has always
Well, yeah,
had
you're a
bad
teacher, so how-
behavior.
you know,
I
yeah.
would say ignore negative behavior. That's my saying.
Right.
You have to teach them to ignore negative
Right.
behavior.
Do your students come back with?
Oh my
with-
God, my kids, my students this year, unbelievable. We do news, we talk about current situations and how they feel. And one of my girls, she's Latino, and she was talking about, her family was all worried, and she was worried because of what 45 had said. And I'm like, sweetheart, he's just talking. Believe me, he has to go through all of these different levels before he can do anything.
I don't know that that's even true, though. I think the
I
threat's
guess-
real. I
yeah,
think he
the
makes
threat is really real. He has people in there that
he has power to hurt people, and he's willing to hurt and wants to hurt.
Oh, he just and he is. I mean, he's canceling. He just not too long, a couple of days ago, he canceled TPS, which is protection status for people from Guatemala, and I mean, there's TPS for different Central American countries, but he's canceling them. DACA was a prime example of him
Oh, gosh.
using that. Canceling it.
Right.
These are programs that have been in place for many years. To my understanding, is why touch them? Like, why are you
Right.
touching them? Leave them how they are. They're hard. These are hardworking individuals. They're
'Cause he
contributing
makes
tax.
points.
They're contributing taxpayer. They're
Who come
taxpayer
out of,
money.
like,
These
complete
people
scary
have
situations.
businesses. These people have businesses. These people, buy homes, buy cars. Why are you trying to? What's
Give to the
what's the
economy.
Exactly.
they give back to the economy, and a lot of these protection statuses and a lot of them don't do all this, but they don't get anything in return. They can't get any government assistance. They can
Right.
that's just the myth out there that they're
Yeah.
feeding
They-
off. They're taking American
Now, that's
jobs
one of
and-
the myths that's out there. Maybe this is more thin for fake news, but there's always that myth that, these folks come here and then they don't even have to pay taxes. I'm like, dude, who doesn't have to pay taxes? Have you heard that stupid thing?
Oh, we hear it all the time.
yeah.
It's just the myths out there, and then
Yeah.
but I mean,
And it shifts from
in my
racial
opinion,
group to
in my
racial
opinion,
group, though.
in my opinion, he's doing it because he wants to get get us kicked, like, those individuals kicked out. That, I mean, they're already legal status, and then it's just a protection status. But then, how do I do it where I just kick them out? It's just a deportation.
Oh yeah.
In a way where, I'm going to cancel the program, and then
Right.
there's the mass deportation that he has in mind.
It
And
is
to
the
me, that is
nasty
that he
hostility.
has that in mind, and has individuals that tell him what to do, and that's one way to get rid of and to do mass deportation is to that. Little by little, you start canceling protection and status of certain individuals, and that's how you get them out. That's how
And you slowly change the culture to say that that's okay, that somehow these folks are. If this guy wins the second term, he's coming after black folks like you and I
Oh
believe.
God.
He's just warming up. He's just warming up with Latinos and Muslims. Once he's going to figure out. I had heard that you're a teacher. I had heard that there were black kids in Oklahoma that were afraid that if Trump won, they were going to deport them. And I'm like, baby, where are they going to deport you to? You're black. You've been here for 350 years.
Well,
Where in the world?
They're teachers carrying guns, teachers having bats. So, I gave my kids a argument writing. Anything they disagreed with, they had to do with school. Some was uniform, but teachers carrying guns was a big one.
Oh.
And these are fifth graders?
And these are fifth graders.
They were not for it.
Not at all.
Neither were high schoolers.
Yeah. Why should
Not-
teachers carry a gun? And they said, well, how do you feel about it, Miss Robinson? I said, well, I'm sorry. I didn't go to school to be a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to school to learn how to shoot a gun and to, do that. I will protect you as my students, but I'd rather protect you. They said, but what if someone comes in and they shoot up our school? I said, look, let's make a plan right now. I had my big boys. I said, you go open the window. They come in. I'm kicking this way. And in the meantime, everybody's going out the window. So they just want to feel safe, but they don't feel safe with us carrying guns. One gave a rationale in their paper. They said, I totally disagree with teachers carrying guns, and this is the first reason. What if the teacher loses their gun and somebody picks it up and just starts shooting around the classroom or takes the gun home? I was like, okay. But they had really
Good.
they did
thought
their
about it.
research.
Why can't they listen to those fifth graders?
Yeah.
Those that
They had thought about it.
they're thinking of doing
and
that.
plus
Why?
they did research,
Think to
and
these fifth
they
graders.
did both. One little boy, he said in one state that his induction was good too. Then he said it was a gun found, and it was 16 boys that found the gun. Was 13 of them handled the gun, and it was 10 of them that pulled the trigger.
How did 10 pull?
And all of these boys had a gun protection class prior to that.
Wow.
I was like, boy, I'm going to read your paper. And that was just in his two first paragraphs.
Oh my
So
gosh.
even though you've had a training
Oh.
to say stay away from
Yeah,
guns or whatever.
Out of those boys, I think he said it was 16 of them, 13 of them picked the gun up. And the other 10 pulled the trigger.
I've seen hidden camera things on that where they'll let the kids into the room and there's this, weapon sitting there, and it shows the parents like, oh no, he's not going to touch that because we've told him. The first thing them kids, they start handling that gun. It's the first
They're
thing
curious.
they do. But getting back to another aspect of this, the big point of this is how do you raise kids in a hostile environment to not be hostile themselves, but to be open and trusting on a certain level and curious and not just tolerant, but just actually open. And my theory is that if you're at home and you're a parent wondering about this, you've got to create those opportunities for a young person to have meaningful relationships with somebody who is not their race. Because
For sure.
at that point, obviously, I'm just going to use the example of a black child, but at some point they're going to have a negative reaction with somebody who is not black, right? Mm-hmm. But but when they do that, if they already have a relationship with somebody, a good relationship with somebody, then it's just there are chumps and there are good people and bad people. There are folks I like and dislike, people who are nice people and jerks. I mean, that way they can put it in their head that way. But if you've got a child that doesn't have any relationships outside of their own race, the minute they have a bad relationship with a person, the basis of racism, especially when you're watching bad behavior, if it's of your race, you go, that's a bad person. But if it's of a different race, you kind of go, well, that's how they are.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
true.
normal human reaction. And so you've got to combat that by seeking to make those situations. My son got that a lot through baseball, because there would be different kids on the team and, things like this. And, well, besides that, we're in a biracial situation, so they were so used to seeing, you know, you know, this uncle is white and this aunt is black, and so, cousins that look different than them. And so, they actually had a hard time understanding what racism is. For a lot longer, they took them a longer time to figure it out, understand the process, than it did me when I was a kid. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Just
Well, did your kids ever come across where, a lot of times, I've heard that kids who are biracial, anyone, they have that option when it comes down to say if they're black or they're white.
mm-hmm.
Then, on the other hand, it's like some races just believe if you have any ounce of black in you, you're black.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So-
with my kids, the oldest one is very light skinned, and now I'm more worried about people look at her funny because they think she's Mexican. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, gee, I thought that one was safe,
Yeah.
But anyway, the other ones visually, the world is going to treat them as black,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think they see themselves as just people. They don't like being pushed in certain corners and such like that, and
But now they have that option. When you go to fill out for a job or anything, and they ask your race.
mhm. I wonder what they put. I'll have to ask.
Yeah, I think they even have one now. Where they have biracial.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because there's a lot of that now.
yeah, it's and then our world is really changing. Our world has changed. It's a lot of mixed families, but it
Yes.
started back during slavery. My great grandmother, who I spent time with when I was in school in Mississippi, she was the master's child. She was biracial.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just generations
Mhm.
and generations of mixed blood, and that's just on one side of my father's side, and then my great grandmother, she was Indian.
Mm-hmm.
So the races have been mixing for centuries,
Oh yeah.
and I don't know how we can make people accept that, but it is what it is.
I think is interesting though is in the cities where it is more diverse. You would think that if there really was something to fear from different cultures and races, the people in the cities would be the ones that would respond to it first because they see it all the time. Whatever, if it was something real to be afraid of, you'd really be afraid of it if you were in that situation. But it seems like there's more fear when you get into the areas of the country where there is no diversity. So it's like, what are you hostile about? You don't even know nobody,
It's
haven't
the
treated-
fear of the
yeah.
unknown.
It is
It's
really a
fear.
weird,
Yeah.
I find that to be the most bizarre thing ever,
Yeah. It's interesting something that you had said earlier triggered something that I'm thinking about now, but I can't think of a good transition. But anyways, when we left the small town that we lived in, one of the reasons was, basically we left when there was this,
change in the LCA.
change in the ELCA. I was going to say revolt, but that's maybe a little too strong. But rejection, and I realized at that point that I did want my children, all three of them, to grow up in an area where they had good role models who were gay or lesbian or transgender or bi, that they had friends that they were like that. So, you know, not only do I want that diversity for us, but I also want good role models, you know. I mean,
Around you.
I had great straight role models growing up, but I can't think of anybody that, you know, we spoke about positively who had a same-sex relationship, or somebody who was transgender or intersex. Oh my goodness sakes. I mean,
I'm not sure of all the terms, to be honest with you. You
that's
know?
another one too. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
intersex is basically, you know, born both genders.
Oh.
Androgynous?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we used to call them androgynous. But
Like
there are
Hermes in.
yeah, there are like 30 some different ways of being intersex.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
30
like you're
ways.
born that way.
Wow, that's
I
like
know.
having over 700 and something different types of apples.
Well, I know, you know, like
And it is over 730 something different types of apples. So, you know,
I know,
hey.
I know. Well, I mean,
Wow.
maybe you've heard of different, you know,
Yeah.
at birth there was a evidence of both genders, and so
Had a
there
dog
was a
like
surgery.
that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
so
it certainly was
but-
mentioned in Greek
but
mythology with
I've
Hermes.
met somebody in
so.
Rockford who is openly intersex, and that was
Really?
wonderful. Yes, who's come to speak at our GSA? Oh my gosh,
Well, that's why I went, wow.
I know,
Just tells you the
Anyways.
diversity.
I know.
It's just so diverse.
I know. What went through school, being with the guy's name, and cross-dressed the whole way through school. Graduated from East in 2003, and then once past graduation, which almost didn't happen for her, you know, she was Scott, and then she became Scotty, and but held on to that identity as her own, you know.
So,
Anyway, she's a wonderful
Well,
person.
the internet-
I'm not going to get because
I know,
got
that's
right.
101 questions behind that one.
Which kind of brings
She
up
can come speak in your class.
Which kind of brings up another thing
Wow.
is that when you're operating in diverse groups, it's unavoidable to say something stupid. And because it is, it's
Put a muzzle on it.
unavoidable.
Okay, so
almost.
can I say something? Can I ask a really stupid question then? Okay.
Sure, sure.
And
if we
it-
don't like it, we can cut it out, right?
Right, exactly.
Go
Okay,
for it.
so, you know, a couple years back in school, and I realized, like most of the classes that I teach, I mean, I'm in the minority. As a white woman, I'm in the minority. So I asked one of my students, or some of my students once, it was a small class and we often got off topic, and I said, what what name would you prefer people to call you? Like, you know, African American, black, you know, like what's preferred? What do you prefer? And they said black. Like, how could you even think anything?
What? They're changing the word again?
Black.
They're
See,
That's what this was.
They didn't want to be called black?
He didn't want to be called African American.
well, I've never
Oh,
been
he didn't
an
want to be
Af-
called African.
No.
I've never been
I
an
didn't like
African.
that all
I would
that
like
well.
to go.
I
But
know.
African American, it sounds good.
But then we have we have real Africans. At East we have,
Right.
I have
You
two
know.
in my classroom now.
yeah, we have like Africans.
I have two.
But maybe
They
they,
don't
would
speak
call
English.
themselves.
Like
Yeah.
straight from Wakanda or somewhere, right?
No.
But
But it's kind of like
I
know,
liked
they-
Afro-American
they
for that. It was only good for a hot minute,
Yeah, I like
but I
that
liked
one.
Afro-American. I thought
I
that
like
was, I was,
But see, nowadays
Like
Because
when-
it
there's,
wasn't.
there's
Anyway,
Afro-Latinos
so I have
who
to ask
identify
you.
as Afro-Latino.
Afro-Latino?
why are there Afro? Oh, yeah, that's right, that's
Oh,
right,
they're dark.
that's right. Because there were black folks and
I've seen some
Sammy
cuties,
Sosa and
too.
stuff like that.
But
Yeah.
some now that there's
know.
another trend, and not a trend, but they identify like that, you know, and then
Right.
I mean that's how they want to be.
There were black Cubans and
Afro-Latino,
stuff, right?
yeah, like typically people from the Dominican Republic,
Mhm.
Cuba, who from the Caribbean.
Wow, I
They
didn't
identify
know
as
that.
Afro-Latino, and then not just that too, but like they'll ask me too, like, what do you? I mean, and I always say I'm Latino, you know, but you know, well, Hispanic is what the government used. You know,
What's
for
the difference
census tract.
between Hispanic and Latino?
Latino means that you're from Latin America, you know.
Latino means Latin America?
That you're from Latin
Okay,
America.
okay.
Hispanic just means that you speak Spanish, but it was something given that the government used because you
Oh.
you spoke. You can't. Hispanic was given because you speak Spanish, so they wanted to identify.
Okay.
The
What about
Spanish
Chicano?
speaking? You know, Chicano is used a lot in like California.
Okay.
You know, I can
that's
identify as a
Mexican
Chicano,
American.
that's Mexican American. But see,
Right.
every time someone will ask me, I'll say, well, I'm Latino, but I identify as Mexican American. I tell my daughters we're Mexican American, If somebody asks you, yeah, we're Mexican American. I have no, I use it a couple of times, and I use it most of the time. I'm Mexican American. The Chicano, when I used to live in.
Right.
In,
That you don't
in
hear
Los
that
Angeles, you don't hear it on this side, but down there you do hear you're a Chicano, you're a Chicana, and it
Yeah.
just means that you're Mexican American. So just depending on what
Yeah.
what you
That's
use.
what, yeah, I remember that. And,
I do too.
But and I do remember that means Mexican American. It doesn't mean from Spain. It doesn't mean from
I guess you
Puerto
identify
Rico. It doesn't
Right.
mean
I
from
heard
that
the
anywhere
difference.
else.
Okay.
Chicana identifies you as a Mexican American.
But I didn't realize that Hispanic was a government word.
Hispanics the government started using for the census. It just meant that you
for the
spoke
census.
Spanish, so identified every Spanish speaking anyone that spoke Spanish. They identify
okay.
you that way. But Latino, Latina just identifies you as you're from Latin America, different Latin American countries. That just means that
Yeah.
you're not just
Right.
because there are so
Not
many.
just learn
there are
Spanish.
like 30 plus Latin American countries, and they all speak
Right.
Spanish. So
Right.
the census wanted to generalize, I guess, the Spanish speaking.
And I think that, the Spanish speakers in my class, they would not identify as Latina or Latino.
No.
They would identify as Mexican.
Yeah.
That's what that's
Yeah,
well
right.
before
Chicano, yeah.
45.
There we go.
Let's say.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean that's the word.
See,
that
and
has
that
the
would
pride.
that would make sense to me because
Yeah.
there's got to be there's a Mexican culture that's really different than Bolivian culture.
Oh yeah.
Just like there would be a
Right.
a Finnish culture that's different than France or something. Right? Right?
That's a pretty big stretch there.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between Finland and France. You're probably just as much different.
We'll start with that.
Probably.
Sorry.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the French have the whole Florida thing, and they don't do that in Finland.
Yeah.
So there's
Cultures, there's
different
diversity,
cultures,
yes.
right? And
Yeah.
I would think
Oh, they're
that
very
they would
different.
identify as, but I've said stupid stuff in our little unity and diversity thing. I'll bring up somebody. Well, there's some kind of Mexican. Maybe they're from Bolivia. Well, Bolivia is not some kind of Mexican. I mean,
Yeah, it's a country.
Although
that's yeah. I meant to say Latino or something,
Yeah.
but there's just. But you're going to have that whenever you're, and we got to give each other space to, interact without jumping down people's
Have
throats.
to
Space to
You know.
ask.
Yes.
I know.
be curious.
I know.
Yeah.
I
But thank
wonder. Tell me. Share.
Mhm.
To feel free to say those words.
Right. Right.
So the answer to my question.
Oh, I used to like. I wish they'd go back to Afro American. I'm kind of 70s, but
Okay.
I liked that. But African American, I've never been to Africa.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I've never been to Africa.
Black works, but
Yeah. Black works for me. I'm black. Yeah, I'm black.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you look at my skin color, I'm not really black. I'm brown. I'm
That's
like
true,
a
too.
caramel color. Like this one guy I used to work with. He goes, Rhonda, I went to an opera. There was a whole bunch of colored people there, and I looked at him. He said they were green. I was like, you're silly.
Oh.
I mean, so people can play with it.
Yeah.
And
see, I don't.
But
I
if-
don't get offended when somebody says colored because because sometimes folks are old. I guess they're not as many anymore because they're not. A lot of the old folks are gone. But that was the polite thing to say at some point in time.
yeah, get the colored
and
girl.
and now I'm experiencing that same thing because it seems to me that the LGBT community has got a lot more letters going on, and it's hard for me to keep up with all that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
And
I
people
only learn
want
from
to be
students.
people want
They
people
teach
want to
me.
be called queer, and I'm like, that used to be a bad thing. So I don't know that.
That's the umbrella word now.
That's the umbrella word. It used to
Yeah.
be a pejorative. So, and
Then the rainbow. I'm like, every time, like this one teacher had rainbow curtains. I'm like, is she singing something?
yeah, and I don't know the difference, and I don't even know if I want to know the difference between bisexual and pansexual. I don't know. It kind of goes to these whole labels that we're doing,
Yeah.
and then somebody changes the label on somebody and then jumps down their throat. It's like, hey man, a couple years ago I just think you have to get to where the intent of people.
I go to Boys Town and I have a blast.
In Chicago?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, and then my mom said to me, because I said one time, some of the girls I work with, they come on, Ronnie, let's go downtown. Downtown to where? To the office. And I said, my mom said, if you're not like that, you shouldn't go in there.
That's what I thought.
But now I feel totally different. I met some of the nicest and cutest guys. Oh, you don't have to worry about nothing.
Oh my gosh!
Picking me up. I like it.
It's your safe place.
Oh my God, I had a blast.
That's great.
That's funny.
And I was forced to go, and I was like, when are we going again?
That's beautiful. I've never been there.
I
should
had a
go.
blast.
That's great. That's great.
Well, maybe
Anyway.
that is
So
interesting.
being different, there's nothing wrong with being different. And
Right.
we need to stop teaching that.
That there's something wrong with being
Yeah,
different.
I had
right.
girlfriends in college. They didn't tell me until we were adults that they liked girls.
Yeah.
And
Maybe they
I
didn't.
still love them the
fully
same
know
way.
Yeah.
I know one of my girlfriends, she's like, Ronnie, let me borrow your sunglasses so I can look at some of these cute women. So, you have to respect whatever people like.
Yeah.
But the
That's what
interesting thing is, I
that's
think
what
that
it's about.
there is less of there is a lot more of the teaching that whole idea of unity and such, and that's what I see with my kids' generation compared to mine, is that my parents were teaching me about a reality that did not exist,
Oh.
but that we
Exactly.
wanted it to exist.
Always taught
And
us to
so-
be afraid.
And
I
so,
felt that way.
so I'm teaching the idea that judging people by the content of their character. That was not true when he said that. I mean, there was not this true thing where what were the images that we saw on Sesame Street where there was all this diversity and it was all cool. That wasn't reality.
Yeah,
That
that
was-
wasn't Duluth, Minnesota.
No, that was just the fantasy that we wanted to become
Yes.
reality, right? That was the aspiration. But for our kids, it is not just the aspiration; it is their reality. So, and it's hard for them to even understand the other reality. But that other reality does exist all through big chunks of our country,
Yeah.
and even big chunks of our city. I mean, I was talking to somebody that they were afraid to go to Walmart on Riverside.
Yes, because of the
Yeah.
shootings.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get shot, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any worse things at that Walmart than anywhere else. Or
Walmart. Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's.
It's reality though. There's people that never been on the other side of the river. And
Oh,
they've lived
yeah.
through their whole lives. So.
I was talking to one guy. We were talking about concealed carry, and he was all for it when it happened. He's like, "Well, now if I want to go down to what's the event downtown? City Market. If I wanted to go down to City Market, now I can." I'm like, "Dude, you're going to be carrying a gun at City Market? Why would you
wow.
carry a gun at City Market? I don't want some guy that's scared to be on that side of town carrying a gun at City Market." Because anything can happen. Somebody could bump into somebody. And it's like, whoa, boo, 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 boo. Next thing you know, he's standing his ground and shooting everybody. I mean, that's just scary.
Gotta teach our
It's
kids
just scary,
diversity.
Yeah.
Since
Right.
they're little. Be
Um,
open to all cultures and
I'm not afraid to go to
Individuals,
City
individuals.
Market. I think you're just stupid if you're afraid to go to City Market.
I think they all need to substitute teach in RPS 205.
Here.
We're always looking for subs. That's a great
Yeah.
experience in just about everything. Because I learn most of what I know from kids.
I do too.
Right? Well, kids are, they are a
They're-
good learning
I think
source.
kids are amazing. I love the way they speak their mind and they tell me how they feel about me, and I get so tickled. I say you appreciate me later on in life.
Well, I'm going to say we've kind of been at it for a while. I wanted to thank you, Mindy. I wanted to thank you, Ron. I wanted to thank you, Caesar, for the conversation. And hopefully we can be around to do this again and again and again. I hope that this
Enjoy.
can become a...
I like
Yes.
I like
Serious.
talking about the experiences I have at home. Obviously
Yeah.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the Latino community.
Right,
speaking of
Oh, yeah,
for
everything
myself,
you
you
say,
know,
you're speaking for,
speaking for
for
my
actually
for
the
my
largest
what
minority in
happens
America.
my household with my family. You know, I don't, that's who I'm speaking for
Right.
my familia.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And I
Yes.
think, yeah,
I'm speaking from experience and from life lessons. Life
Yeah.
lessons goes with experience, and I'm still learning.
how about that? No
How
kidding.
about that?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to be here. I love learning from you guys, and so grateful to be part of this conversation. And anyway, stand up for people who need standing up for.
Exactly.
That's what I
Exactly.
think I really am happy about this thing, because we do have to have each other's back. And the fact is, we're all people. We all want the same sorts of things. And I just thought it was very interesting, the fears that I have. Everybody else is sharing this on some level as well, you know, and so we got to make a better tomorrow. So,
Yes, indeed.
Thanks,
all
Joe.
right. Well, thank you guys very much for hanging in for this long, and look forward to other installments of Conversations with UID. So.